The night before Christmas has a way of exposing the quietest wounds. Snow can soften the streets, lights can blur the edges of pain, but some silences grow heavier when the world expects joy. That was the kind of silence that followed her into the Grand Hotel ballroom, a silence so deep it echoed louder than music. She was a CEO known for commanding boardrooms and headlines, yet that evening her hands trembled slightly as she held the small, warm hand of her deaf daughter. What was meant to be a Christmas dinner of celebration would become a moment that cracked open hearts, healed old scars, and changed lives in ways no one saw coming. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen when people truly see each other, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that may be hurting in silence. She had built her life on resilience. As a self-made CEO, she was admired for her sharp instincts and fearless decisions, but admiration rarely asks about the cost. Years earlier, she had lost her husband in an accident that turned her world into a before and after. In the aftermath, her daughter's hearing loss was diagnosed, not as a result of the tragedy but as a condition that suddenly defined every aspect of their lives. The child retreated into her own world, a place without sound, where emotions were felt deeply but expressed cautiously. The mother tried to be everything at once, provider, protector, translator between two worlds. But grief has a way of building walls, and silence, even when shared, can feel unbearably lonely. The Christmas dinner was not her idea. It was a corporate tradition, a lavish event where donors, executives, and families gathered under crystal chandeliers and artificial snow. Attendance was expected, especially from her. Bringing her daughter felt necessary yet terrifying. The child had been anxious all day, overwhelmed by the idea of crowds, unfamiliar faces, and a room full of people who spoke a language she could not hear. Still, she agreed, trusting her mother's gentle reassurance and the promise that they could leave any time. The ballroom shimmered with elegance, long tables glowed under candlelight, and a massive Christmas tree stood like a symbol of abundance and cheer. Laughter floated in the air, and music played softly in the background, meaningless to the little girl but deeply isolating. She clung closer to her mother, eyes scanning the room, absorbing emotions through expressions and movements. The mother felt a familiar ache in her chest, the guilt of knowing her child felt like an outsider in moments meant for belonging. As they moved through the crowd, polite smiles greeted them. Some people noticed the child's quietness and looked away, unsure how to interact. Others offered sympathy masked as kindness, the kind that unintentionally reinforces distance. The mother nodded and smiled, playing her role flawlessly. But inside she felt the old frustration rise. Success had given her power, but it had not taught the world how to meet her daughter where she was. Across the room, a man stood alone near the edge of the crowd. He was younger than most executives there, dressed neatly but without the polished arrogance common in such spaces. He was a single father, invited not as a guest of honor but as a representative of a small non-profit that supported children with disabilities. His own daughter had passed away years earlier after a brief illness, leaving him with grief that reshaped his life. In her memory, he had learned sign language, first out of necessity, then out of love, and finally as a mission to connect with those often unheard. He noticed the little girl immediately, not because she was quiet, but because of the way she observed the room with a depth that spoke of caution and intelligence. He recognized the posture, the way her hands hovered close to her chest, the subtle tension in her shoulders. He had seen it countless times in children who learned early that the world was not built for them. The mother guided her daughter to an empty table near the side, hoping the distance would help her feel safer. Plates were filled, conversations flowed, and the evening moved on as planned, yet the child's unease grew. She picked at her food, eyes fixed on the lights above, blinking rapidly as if holding back something too heavy to release. Her mother noticed, feeling helpless, knowing that sometimes reassurance was not enough. Then something unexpected happened. The man approached slowly, respectfully, making sure not to startle them. He did not speak. Instead, he raised his hands gently and signed a simple greeting, his movements calm and deliberate. The child froze, then stared at him, disbelief flickering across her face. Someone in this loud, overwhelming room was speaking her language. Her response was hesitant at first, small hands mirroring his gestures. The exchange was silent, yet it carried more warmth than any spoken conversation nearby. The mother watched, stunned, as her daughter's posture softened, her eyes brightened, and a smile slowly formed, the kind that comes from feeling seen rather than entertained. The man introduced himself through sign, explaining that he had learned the language for his daughter and never stopped using it. He spoke of Christmas as a time for remembering and connection, of light in dark seasons. The child absorbed every movement, every expression, her hands moving faster now, more confidently. For the first time that evening, she laughed, a soundless but radiant expression that lit up her face. The mother felt tears gather, unexpected and overwhelming. She had spent years advocating, fighting systems, demanding accommodations, yet in this moment, it was one person's quiet effort that broke through her daughter's isolation. She realized how often she had been so busy surviving that she forgot the power of simple human connection. As the evening continued, others noticed the small circle of calm forming amid the noise. Conversation slowed, curiosity replaced indifference. Some guests watched, intrigued by the silent exchange, sensing that something meaningful was happening even if they could not fully understand it. The Christmas music played on, but at that table, a different kind of harmony existed. The child began signing stories of her own, about school, about feeling invisible, about wishing people would look at her hands instead of her ears. The man listened with complete attention, responding with empathy and encouragement. He reminded her that silence did not mean emptiness, that her voice existed in every gesture, every expression, every thought she shared with the world. The mother joined in as best she could, her own signing imperfect but heartfelt. She felt layers of her own grief loosen, replaced by gratitude and a renewed sense of purpose. She saw her daughter not as fragile, but as resilient, capable of joy even in unfamiliar spaces. By the time dessert was served, the little girl was no longer overwhelmed. She sat taller, engaged, her hands moving freely as she communicated. The mother realized that this dinner, which she had dreaded, had become a turning point, not because of speeches or donations, but because of compassion practiced quietly, without expectation of recognition. As the night drew to a close, the man signed a final message to the child, reminding her that the world needed people like her, people who taught others to listen differently. She nodded, eyes shining, and hugged him with a sincerity that spoke of trust and connection formed in a single evening. Walking out into the cold night, snow falling softly around them, the mother felt lighter than she had in years. Her daughter squeezed her hand, signing words of happiness and gratitude. In that moment, the mother understood that leadership was not just about influence or success, but about creating spaces where every voice could exist, even without sound. Before we reach the ending, take a moment to comment below and share what part of this story touched you the most. Your words matter, and they help keep these stories alive. Christmas morning arrived quietly. There were no grand revelations, no sudden miracles that erased pain or struggle. But there was something better. There was understanding. The mother committed herself not only to her company's growth but to using her influence to support inclusive spaces. The man continued his work, teaching sign language to those willing to learn, carrying his daughter's memory forward through connection. And the little girl stepped into the world with a little less fear, knowing that somewhere out there, hands were ready to listen. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the power of kindness, empathy, and small actions that change lives, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps spread these messages of compassion further than silence ever could. Some silences are not meant to be filled with noise, they are meant to be understood. And sometimes, all it takes is one person willing to listen with their heart to turn a Christmas dinner into a moment of healing that lasts far beyond the season.